Welcome to video 4 in our series on renovating this office space. Now in the last video we were ripping out the rugs and the padding underneath, and that's all done now, so now it's time to inspect the subfloor and repair any damage that might be under there. And I was a little worried about this, and I was worried for good reason, because this is what I found once the carpet was up. This water stain was caused by the leak coming down from the ceiling. Now we repaired that in the earlier video, and the roof has been replaced, so this leak is finished. But it did do some damage to the flooring. But overall, it just looks like it stained this floor, so this is probably fine, though we'll clean it up and take a better look at it. Now, the area that I'm much more concerned about is the area over by the sliding glass door. The damage to the flooring here is pretty significant. I can actually push through this with my fingers. So this whole section of subfloor is going to have to be ripped out and replaced. Before we go ahead and fix the subfloor, let's go ahead and clean up some of the rest of the flooring so that we can get an idea if there's anything else hiding in the woodwork. The first step in that is going to be getting all the staples out of the floor that were in the carpet padding from when we tore it up. And I have a pretty good trick for getting those out pretty quickly. Now, the pretty common way to remove the staples is to just get some kind of screwdriver or a pry bar and try to pry them out one by one. As you can see, this is not so easy. Maybe you can use pliers and just rip them out, but this is pretty slow going. So I'm going to show you a different technique. Using one of these small pry bars and a mallet, you can just butt this up against the edge of the staple and then give it a whack. And that will remove the staple quickly. And you can just keep going straight down the chain. So we've gone ahead and cleaned up all the subfloor, we've pulled out all the staples, we even sanded some of the rough spots out from where the splinters from the staples were, or some building materials like spackle had dripped on the floor, adding bumps. It's important to prepare the subfloor so we don't have any of these bumps or ripples for when we put the hardwood floor down, but now it's just a quick pass over. So we've gotten all that done, we've cleaned up the debris with the vacuum, so there's no dirt on the floor, and we're ready to go ahead and fix the cracks and the water damage in the subfloor. So this rot's pretty bad. What I'm gonna have to do is remove this whole panel. It's pretty easy since this is just a 4-foot wide piece of subflooring, and I can pull up the nails and then cut along the wall to remove it. Once we get the subfloor up, we're gonna have to do a little framing to put the new subfloor down, but to do that we'll have to put some structural support in so there's something to nail into, since this piece of subfloor actually goes underneath this wall. So we'll cut it up to the wall and then we'll add some more structure in place and put a new piece down. So I got all the old flooring cut out of this, and now I just need to brace this up so I have something to nail the new subfloor into. this is all glued and screwed down, it's time to take a walk over the rest of the floor and check for any other soft spots that might need some repair. This is usually caused by a crack in the subfloor on the under part. So this is the part that you can't see, so it's not immediately obvious. So what we'll do here is we'll walk around these seams and we'll check for the soft spots, and if there are any, we'll take them up and we'll replace them like we did this, except on a slightly smaller scale. I know I went pretty quickly through the process of how to actually repair the subfloor, and the reason for that is I've made a whole other video on how to do that. So I will link that here, and I'll also put the link down in the description. After walking across the subfloor and looking for any other damage, it was lucky in that there was only one other spot on the floor that needed to be patched. So other than the big patch where the floor was rotted out, there was only one other one, so that's all done now and we can move ahead. The next step in the process is to do our best to eliminate any kind of squeaks that may be coming from the subfloor. Now, when I did the initial preparation of the subfloor and cleaned it up, I took a hammer and I knocked down every single nail on the floor to tighten those up. However, the nails are going to pop back out, and the nails that we're using on this floor are smooth shank nails, so the likelihood of them holding over time is not fantastic. So to address that problem, I'm going to put down a whole bunch of screws between the nails, and this will lock the subfloor to the joist underneath and hopefully limit the movement and therefore eliminate most of the squeaking that would happen as you walked around on this floor. Well, that was a lot of screws. I think all in all is close to 300 or so. But now the subfloor is locked down to the joist and there's very few creaks. So we're ready to move on to the next step, which is to check the level of the subfloor. And we can do this in one of two ways. We can get a level and just go down, lay it across the floor to make sure that it's straight and doesn't have lots of gaps, and what we're looking for is high or low spots. The second way we can do it is just with a straight piece of flooring if you've already had your flooring delivered. So we'll go ahead, we'll take a look at that, and remember, we're not looking to see if the floor is perfectly level, we're just looking to see if it's flat. And it's okay to maybe have little dips and stuff of about 1/8 of an inch. Those will get kind of filled in with the underlayment. But anything bigger, we either want to sand down or we're going to want to build it back up using either extra underlayment, shingles, or some kind of structural support so that the wood doesn't bow once you put down the hardwood floor. I was pretty lucky with this floor and everything was pretty straight and flat, so I didn't have to do very much to make it any flatter than it was. The only place I did have to do a little work was over here where this big patch was, and that's because when I put the new piece of subfloor down, the old subfloor was 5/8 of an inch, and I couldn't find exactly 5/8 of an inch subfloor, so it was slightly lower. So in this case, I'm just going to double up on the underlayment, and this will make it nice and flat, as you can see from this board laying across. Now that the subfloor is all prepared, it's ready to have the underlayment put down. And the underlayment is an important step because this is what's going to cushion the floor, it's going to dampen noise, and it's going to level out all the little inconsistencies in the subfloor. So there's a bunch of options for this. I tend to go with the higher grade stuff. But if you're more interested in this, I have a whole series of videos on how to do underlayment, how to level a floor, and I will post those down below. So for now, I'm just going to show you the process of actually putting the underlayment in, which is as simple as rolling out these layers, overlapping them, taping them down, and going straight across the floor. Now it's finally time to start laying this floor down, and what I've done here is I've laid out kind of a template for what we're going to do. Now I've put down hardwood flooring before, but this is much more complicated than what I did in the past. And the reason is the floor runs this way coming out of this room, and it's been cut flush. So other than being able to cut up all the wood and slide them in, I had to do something different to make this transition from this room to the hallway. And the way I'm going to do this transition is I'm going to make a border. So I'm going to start by doing 2 strips perpendicular to the way it's running from the hallway of our red oak flooring. And this is the same flooring we've used in the rest of the house. I'm then going to do this inset strip of Brazilian cherry. And this is a darker strip that will outline the whole room and should give a nice border and make the transition make sense from this hallway into this office space. Now, in doing a project like this, there are going to be some complications. One of which is where the tongue and grooves don't match up because of the floor going in different directions. In these cases, we're going to have to do a little bit of cutting and some routing work to make everything fit together. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll take this challenge head on. Now that we got the first piece installed in front of the entryway, the next thing to do is to make this second layer of the border and to match it up with this corner. So I have a piece here just laying in the corner to line it up, and you can see this is where the 2 tongues meet up. So what I'm gonna have to do here is, because I want to keep the tongue and groove locking in place, is I'm gonna take this piece, I'm gonna cut it off, and then I'm gonna route a groove in here to match up with the one over there. Now that we got the groove cut into this piece of flooring, it's time to fit it in place, and now we can just put it up against the starter board, pop it in, and we're ready to nail it down. The next step is to use this framing square to make sure that this first row up against the wall, which will be our base to nail the rest of the floor down, is perfectly perpendicular to these 2 boards that we've already laid at the entryway. So I'll just go ahead and do that, checking for square as I go down the wall. These inlays are Brazilian cherry, but they go in the same way as the other 2 layers of floor that I've already laid down. So I've cut another groove into this piece of wood, and it just simply slides right in. Now I can pull up this other piece of the inlay, and it matches up perfectly. Now that these side borders are in, I can start laying a little faster because the rest of the boards on this side will start laying continuously, and I can use the floor nailer. So this was a potential problem that I was tangentially aware of when I started to lay the flooring down, and that is because of the lengths of the walls being irregular, it doesn't fit a board perfectly. So as I'm coming out, it doesn't match up with the turn over here. As of right now, we're just under 0.35 inches. So I'm gonna have to close this gap. And the way I'm gonna do that is in a pretty labor-intensive way. I am going to plane down each of these 7 boards that I have remaining about a 1/16 of an inch. And that should start shrinking this as I get towards this last board. By the time I get to the end, we'll have a perfect flush fit. And since it's only a 1/16 of an inch, no one will ever notice that the boards are slightly thinner than they're supposed to be. I've been cutting this back board by board, bit by bit, and it was labor intensive, but now the edge is nice and smooth. So, moment of truth. Let's add this board and see if it matches up flush. Looks pretty good to me. So I'm coming to the end of this flooring project, and with the end comes one of the hardest parts. And that is, I need to match up the 2 sides of the border so that everything fits nice and flush at the end. And this is more challenging than you'd think it would be. Now the reason for that is that this corner right here needs to match up with the one all the way over there. Now I started on one side of the room and I cut the board, and I cut it about a 1/16 of an inch too short. And the reason I did that is By going a 1/16 of an inch too short, I can always shave off the last row of wood like I did when I was doing the other corner to make it fit flush. If I go too long, I'm gonna have a small gap, and a small gap is very hard to cover up or fix. This board, since it's an extension of one already laid in place, is not the same size as the one I have to cut over there. So I didn't have any kind of cohesive point to measure from. Not to mention, the nature of wood is it expands, it contracts, it's warped, and flooring definitely is not always perfectly straight or even exactly the same size. So as I lay the wood in, there's no guarantee that if I measure exactly 3 1/4 for each board all the way to the end, that it's gonna be that when it gets at the end. It might be bigger, it might be smaller. So the way I solved this problem was to basically pre-rack the floor all the way in. Now by doing this, I have an idea roughly of how long the boards are gonna be and where the final run of the border will go. Now on this side of the room, I did the same thing. I pre-racked it out, I laid the board in place for the border to test it out, and I measured. And it's a pretty tough measurement because as you can see, there's little air gaps and stuff that form in this wood, which makes it vary a little bit. So what I did is, I went to a spot on a plank that had already been nailed in place and I marked it off, which happened to be exactly 4 feet. I measured from the board where it meets, right here. I then measured it off to the other side and double checked it on this side. As you can see, the previous border goes a little bit further out. So what we're gonna need to do here is make sure that we subtract out this piece of wood that goes beyond the 4-foot mark so that the piece fits in perfectly. Now the next thing to do is to find a good match for this strip right here, cut it down to the right size and lay it in place. Then I'm probably gonna go forward and re-rack in all the wood just to make sure it fits as a test fit. This side worked out pretty much as I expected. It's a little long, but all I need to do is sand this a little bit on this side and it should fit smoothly right into place. So that sanding did the trick and this board slipped right into place. Now we only have one more corner to go. Okay, so while the other corner went really well, this one did not. No matter how many times I measured, no matter how hard I tried, I still came up long on this corner. And sometimes that just happens, but now what I have is the dreaded gap. Now fixing this is definitely not as easy as the other corner, but it's not impossible. What I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take the oscillating saw and very carefully and very straight trim off this little bit of excess here, and then of course there's gonna be excess on the end of this board as well. Once that's done, we should be able to fit this back in place. Well, that was a lot of slow work with the oscillating saw, just buzzing a little piece off at a time to make it flush and then cleaning it up with a wood file. But the results look pretty good and everything matches up perfectly now. So we're ready to move on, finish up the closet and finish up the flooring under this radiator. So thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like it, please subscribe to our channel and hit the little like button below and we'll make sure that we notify you whenever we come out with new videos. Until next time, be safe and we'll see you soon. This one. See.